Republican Congressman Jim Jordan among House Republicans who sent a letter to Bragg on Monday demanding his testimony before Congress. And the chairman of the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the federal government, Jim Jordan, joins me now. Welcome, Congressman.
Good to be with you, Kennedy. Thanks for having me.
I mean, there is so much weaponization in the government right now, not just the federal government, because it has gotten so big and takes so much of our money and borrows so much money and creates so much debt that they have to do something with that. And that means they have grown more powerful. So between tech cronyism, turning parents into, domestic terrorists, or a rogue progressive DA going after a former and potentially future president, what is most egregious to you?
Well, I think all of it. I mean, these agencies are supposed to serve we the people. Instead, it seems like they're targeting the American citizen. And the one you bring up, we just released a report yesterday about the targeting of parents who show up at school board meetings to advocate for their son or daughters. The Democrats told us, they will never use domestic terrorism resources against parents. Yes, they did. In the Northern District of Georgia, that in fact was done. Democrats said there was no coordination between school board groups and the government prior to the letter being sent asking for them to get involved. Yes, there was. The school boards groups talked with the White House, the Justice Department, and the Department of Education before that letter was ever sent that prompted Merrick Garland to issue the memorandum. And of course, Democrats said this was widespread. It was all across the country. No, it wasn't. In fact, one U.S. attorney, now this is a Democrat U.S. attorney in the Biden administration, said that this was a manufactured crisis. This was, the local law enforcement said, what are we doing here? This is not a federal issue. If there's real problems, we'll handle at the local level. So, yeah, that is a great example. And then, of course, what you have Alvin Bragg attempting to do, or maybe going to do, in the district attorney's office in Manhattan.
Yeah, it's unsafe here in New York. People are not prosecuted. People operate and harm each other with impunity. They know that, at most, they're going to get a ticket. Most violent felonies have been downgraded to be misdemeanors, but here you have a misdemeanor that's being upgraded to a felony. So now the former president says he thinks that there will not be an indictment. Do you share that view?
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of been back and forth over the last couple of days. We'll see. But you're right. He downgrades most felonies to misdemeanors. The felony cases he brings, he loses half of them. His main witness, if he brings this action against President Trump, is Michael Cohen, a guy who lied and went to prison for lying, who came in front of the Oversight Committee, by the way, a few years ago, and lied 6 times in front of Congress. That's his star witness. So I think you know that this is a poor case and a case that should never happen, because the Department of Justice wouldn't bring it, the Federal District of New York wouldn't bring it, Cy Vance, the former DA, wouldn't bring it, and even Alvin Bragg wouldn't bring it a year ago, and he didn't decide to bring it until President Trump announces he's running for president, and then, now we're going to go after the leading guy, the guy who's winning in the polls, leading in the polls. Now we're going to go after him because the left says I should. That is selective prosecution, and the country understands that, and that is not how our system is supposed to work.
Yeah, even the part of the country that doesn't support the former president, they understand that that doesn't look right, and that is something that could help them. People look at him and be like, man, hey, at least he's fighting for us, because the whole world seems to be fighting against him. Speaking of which, we know that you have a storied wrestling past. Would you ever consider getting into professional wrestling when you leave office?
No, I wouldn't. In fact, some people say we're in professional wrestling or in some kind of wrestling here in Congress every day. But no, I'm old. I'm not going to do any more of any kind of wrestling. But we are going to try to wrestle with these agencies that we think have been going after the American people. And the other thing that bugs me, Kennedy, is think about it. When were any of these bureaucrats across these agencies, when was Nina Jankowicz, who was going to run the Disinformation Governance Board, when did she ever put her name on a ballot, get elected to office, and that's not the people. They're not the ones. When did Fauci ever put his name on a ballot?
Or
yet they've been running our lives for the last few years. Yes, exactly. Like these people, at least Mayorkas had to get confirmed, but I don't think Jankowicz had to get confirmed to anything in front of the Senate. I don't think Fauci ever had to get confirmed recently in front of the Senate, certainly. So that's a problem I see, and why it's so important we do our work.
Amen. And limit the size and scope of government. Congressman Jordan, thank you so much.
Well said.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.